The dark expanse of space stretched endlessly around the Imperial fleet. The stars glimmered like cold diamonds against the black void, and the blue-green sphere of Earth hung in the distance. Like a jewel waiting to be claimed, the fleet moved, in perfect formation, their hulls glistening with silver armor under the pale light of the distant sun. Admiral Corvin stood at the center of the command deck of the flagship, the Iron Spear. His hands rested behind his back, his gaze fixed on the planet growing larger on the main display. Around him, officers worked at their stations with calm efficiency, reading sensor data, adjusting navigation, and running checks on the ship's massive weapons. Corvin was a tall, lean figure with eyes that always carried the weight of authority. He had led countless campaigns for the Imperial Dominion, conquering worlds in the Outer Rim, bending their rulers to the will of the Empire. This mission, however, felt different. The fleet had been sent across vast stretches of space to reach an isolated star system. The prize was a single world called Earth, according to intelligence gathered from wandering traders and intercepted signals. Earth was a planet rich in water, fertile land, and rare minerals. It was also said to be inhabited by a native species called humans. The Imperial High Council believed these humans were primitive compared to the wider galaxy. Their ships were slow, their weapons outdated, and their defenses minimal. The mission had been labeled low risk from the start. Corvin did not expect trouble. In fact, he expected the operation to be swift and without real resistance. The fleet carried the most advanced warships in the Empire. Each one was equipped with beam cannons, gravity projectors, and shields strong enough to withstand asteroid impacts. Against such power, a single planet could do little. The first officer, Commander Darren, stepped forward from his station. Admiral, long-range scans confirm the planet has no orbital defense platforms. There are several artificial satellites in low orbit, but they appear to be civilian in purpose. No sign of large war fleets nearby. Corvin gave a small nod. Good. Maintain formation and continue approach. We will enter planetary orbit within 6 standard hours. Round the command deck, there was a quiet confidence. Many officers had served with Corvin during other conquests. They remembered battles where resistance was crushed within minutes, where surrender came almost before the first shots were fired. To them, Earth would be no different. As the fleet drew closer, the details of the planet became clearer. Swirls of white clouds danced across vast blue oceans. Continents stretched like green and brown maps beneath the atmosphere. The image was beautiful in a way that even Corvin had to admit. It was a world untouched by the scars of heavy industrial warfare that marked so many other planets. Communications officer Rel turned in her chair. Admiral, we are receiving transmissions from the planet. They appear to be public broadcasts in multiple languages. None are directed specifically at us. Corvin raised an eyebrow. Ignore them for now. Once we are in position, we will send the standard Imperial proclamation. The proclamation was a simple message sent to any targeted world. It demanded surrender and compliance, promising safety in exchange for obedience to the Empire. Most worlds understood the message well enough to avoid destruction. In the hangar bays of the Iron Spear, crews prepared landing craft and assault drones. Pilots checked their controls while engineers ensured every system was ready for immediate deployment. A young lieutenant named Vero stood near a viewport, staring at Earth with curiosity. He had never seen a planet so alive from space. The cities below twinkled faintly even from this distance, and patterns of lights revealed where human settlements stretched across the land. He imagined the people there going about their lives. Unaware of the great fleet that now approached, they looked peaceful, Vero murmured. Another crew member, older and more experienced, chuckled. Peaceful until they try to fight. It is always the same. They will resist, they will lose, and then they will serve the Empire. Vero said nothing more, but he kept watching the planet. Hours passed, and the fleet slipped closer to the inner worlds of the solar system. They passed Mars, a rust-colored sphere with a thin atmosphere, and adjusted their path toward Earth. The navigation computers calculated the safest approach to bring the warships into a position where they could control both the skies and the surface below. On the bridge, The officers monitored every detail. Energy readings, atmospheric scans, and communications patterns were all recorded and analyzed. Nothing in the data suggested that Earth had the means to resist. Then the long-range comms system signaled an incoming direct transmission. "Admiral," said Officer Rel, "this one is addressed to us specifically. It is in one of the human languages." "Translation is ready." Corvin gestured for the message to play. A calm, steady voice filled the command deck. "To the approaching fleet, you are entering protected space. Turn back immediately and you will be allowed to leave without interference. If you continue, we will take defensive action." When the voice ended, the bridge fell silent for a moment. Then several officers exchanged amused looks. Commander Darren smirked. "They sound polite, almost like they believe they can threaten us." A low ripple of laughter spread through the deck crew. Corvin himself allowed the faintest smile. "Send." No reply. "Let our rival speak for us." Outside, the fleet continued its approach. The formation of the warships cut across the darkness like a line of steel predators. The engines burned with blue light, leaving trails in the void. In the distance, the moon came into view, its cratered surface glowing in reflected sunlight. The fleet passed it without slowing. The Iron Spear took the lead position, the other ships fanning out in a pattern designed to give maximum coverage of the planet's orbit. Corvin turned to his tactical officers. "Once we are in position, begin targeting scans of major population centers. Prepare the planetary suppression systems." The officers moved to carry out the orders. The fleet's weapons hummed softly as they powered up. The targeting computers began locking onto the largest cities visible on the surface. From orbit, humanity's vast cities were like clusters of jewels shining in the night. Down below, people on Earth looked up at the strange points of light in the sky, wondering if they were new satellites or some passing cosmic event. Few guessed that an entire alien armada now hung above their world, watching and preparing to strike. Corvin studied the live feed from the planet's surface. It felt strange to think that soon all of it would be under Imperial control. The green fields, the mountains, the seas, and the cities would belong to the Empire. The humans, with all their colorful cultures and languages, would serve as another addition to the Dominion's long list of conquered peoples. He gave the final order for the approach. "Bring us into high orbit. The moment we lock position, we begin the proclamation." As the massive warships drifted into the shadow of the Earth, no one on the bridge noticed the faint flicker of light far off in the distance. A flicker that did not belong to the stars. Something was watching them. The Iron Spear sailed into high orbit, the blue curve of Earth filling half the main display. The other Imperial ships maintained a precise pattern around the planet, their metallic hulls catching glints of sunlight. From the bridge of the flagship, Admiral Corvin looked at the redouts. Everything showed normal. No enemy ships, no signs of heavy planetary defenses. Commander Darren stepped closer. "Admiral, targeting scans are complete. The largest human population centers have been marked. Orbital suppression weapons are ready to deploy when you give the order." Corvin gave a calm nod. "Prepare the proclamation. Let them understand what is coming." Communications Officer Rel's fingers moved over her console. She sent out the Imperial message in every major human language. The transmission was powerful enough to reach the surface instantly. It carried the standard warning, "Surrender peacefully," and they would be spared the destruction that awaited those who resisted. The message left the Iron Spear and spread across the planet below. Within minutes, responses began to arrive from Earth's leaders. Rel read through them quickly, her voice steady but carrying a note of interest. Several of their governments are sending messages. Most are calling for talks. Others are demanding we leave their space immediately. One, however, stands out. It is short and direct. "Would you like to hear it, Admiral?" Corvin gestured for her to play it. A human voice, firm yet calm, filled the bridge. "You are warned again. This planet is not yours to take. Leave our skies, or face consequences." The voice was not raised, but every word carried weight. There was no sound of fear, only certainty. Some officers on the bridge smiled at what they saw as arrogance. Commander Darren let out a quiet laugh. "They think they can frighten us with words." Corvin, however, felt a faint curiosity. Interesting. They speak as if they are certain of their power. Yet we see no fleets, no weapons. Very well, we will proceed. Arm the first wave. In the hangar bays, drone pilots prepared their craft, orbital cannons powered up, sending low hums through the ship's structure. On the viewing screens, Earth's night side was lit by countless points of light from its cities. The fleet had the advantage of total surprise and superior firepower. Admiral Rell said again, "We are detecting unusual energy fluctuations near the far side of the planet. They are faint, but they do not match any known human technology." Corvin turned toward the sensor officer. "Can you identify the source?" The officer shook his head. "Not yet. The readings appear and vanish in less than a second. It may be atmospheric interference." Corvin gave a single nod. "Continue monitoring. Begin the suppression sequence." The moment the order left his lips, the first of the Iron Spear's forward cannons prepared to fire. But before the charge could reach full power, a strange burst of light appeared off the port side of the ship. It was not like any energy signature the Imperials had seen before. It did not show up on the weapon threat sensors. It was simply there, bright for a fraction of a second, and then gone. A second later, one of the fleet's smaller escort ships vanished from the display. The bridge fell silent. Commander Darren leaned over the tactical console. "Report. Where did the shield fang go?" The sensor officer's voice was tight. "It is gone, Commander." One moment it was there. The next, nothing. No explosion detected. No debris. The crew looked at each other, unsure if this was an error. Corvin spoke firmly. "Run a full diagnostic. I want to know if this is a malfunction in our systems." Before the diagnostics could begin, another flash appeared. This time it was behind the fleet, near the rear guard. When the light faded, another ship was missing. The Storm Edge. Rell's hands flew over the comms board. "Admiral, I am receiving encrypted signals. They are coming from multiple points in orbit, but none of them match our known coordinates." Corvin's voice dropped lower, controlled but sharper. "Put them on the main screen." The display filled with a rotating wave of glowing symbols, clearly not Imperial in origin. The translation system tried to make sense of them but failed. The image shifted, and for a brief instant, the face of a human appeared. It was a woman with dark hair, calm eyes, and an expression of complete control. Her voice was clear. "This is your second warning. Leave now." The transmission ended instantly. Corvin straightened. "Track the source of that message." The communications team worked rapidly, but every signal seemed to come from a different place. No single point could be identified. The humans, if they truly were humans, had the ability to mask their position entirely. Another light burst flared, and this time it was close enough to be seen with the naked eye through the viewport. It looked almost gentle, like a ripple of soft white light. When it faded, the Iron Spear's sensors reported the loss of 2 more ships. No damage alarms had sounded. No explosions had registered. They were simply gone. The tension on the bridge grew heavy. Officers who moments ago had been laughing now kept silent. Corvin's eyes narrowed as he looked at the tactical map. In less than 5 minutes, 4 warships had vanished without a trace. "Admiral," Commander Darren said quietly, "I recommend we pull back temporarily. We need to understand what we are facing before committing the full fleet." Corvin shook his head. "If we retreat now, we show weakness. The Empire does not flee from shadows. We will adapt." Still, he ordered all ships to raise shields to maximum and to spread formation. If the unknown weapon had limits, increasing distance between the warships might slow the losses. For a short time, nothing happened. The ships continued to drift. In orbit, weapons ready, sensors scanning for any sign of the attacker. Then, without warning, another burst of light appeared, this time directly in front of the Iron Spear. Every screen on the bridge flickered to black. The crew scrambled to restore systems, and after a few tense seconds, the displays returned. All functions seemed normal, until the sensor officer spoke in a tight voice. "Admiral, the Iron Spear's forward cannon array is gone. Not damaged. Gone. The structure no longer exists. A murmur swept through the bridge. Removing a part of a ship without leaving wreckage was impossible by Imperial understanding. Corvin stood silently, thinking. The humans had not fired visible beams or missiles. They had not sent fleets to engage in battle. Instead, something invisible, quiet, and impossibly fast was removing pieces of the Imperial force from existence. He finally spoke. Continue monitoring for energy surges. The next time one appears, I want all sensor data recorded instantly. We must learn how they do this. Even as he spoke, Corvin knew this was no ordinary mission. The humans were not reacting like a weak, unprepared species. They were patient, they were precise, and they were confident enough to give warnings. Before striking, far below, on the surface of Earth, no one could see the silent struggle in the sky. Life went on as normal in the cities and towns. But somewhere, hidden from Imperial eyes, the people who had sent those warnings were watching every move of the fleet, waiting for the next moment to strike. The Iron Spear's bridge was quiet except for the hum of the control panels. Everyone watched their screens closely, searching for the next sign of the strange weapon. The earlier burst of light had taken for warships and even removed an entire cannon array. From the flagship, no alarms, no debris, no sound. The ships were simply gone. Admiral Corvin stood tall in the center of the room. His eyes moved from one station to another. All ships, remain on full alert. Keep your shields at maximum. Spread formation further and prepare countermeasures. If this enemy can remove parts of our fleet, we will make it as difficult as possible for them. Commander Darren tapped the control on his panel. The display showed the fleet pulling farther apart, each ship holding a different altitude above Earth. The movement gave them more space to maneuver, but it also made coordination harder. Communications. Officer Rel broke the silence. Admiral, another message from the surface. The source is still hidden. They are using the same human voice as before. Corvin nodded. Play it. The same calm female voice spoke again. This is your last chance. Leave now. The bridge crew stared at the speakers as the voice faded. No background noise. No sign of stress. Just a plain and steady tone. Darren shook his head. They are confident. That means they believe they can destroy us at will. Corvin's voice was steady. Belief is one thing. We will see if they can stand against a concentrated strike. Target their largest city on the northern continent. Fire at my command. The targeting officers worked quickly, locking onto the massive cluster of lights far below. Orbital cannons on the nearest ships began to glow with stored energy. The beams could burn through an armored fortress in seconds. Then the first strange pulse appeared. Again, it came from nowhere, a bright wave of white light that lasted only a heartbeat. This time, it struck the Crimson Star, a heavy destroyer on the fleet's right flank. The crew on the Iron Spear watched in shock as the destroyer flickered once and vanished entirely from the tactical map. No explosion, no fragments, just empty space where the ship had been. Corvin's jaw tightened. Do not break formation. Continue charging weapons. But before the order was even finished, another pulse appeared, then another. Two ships vanished in quick succession, their loss marked only by gaps in the orbital line. The rest of the fleet adjusted position automatically, but the pattern was beginning to collapse. Rel's hands moved quickly on her console. Admiral, I am detecting faint gravitational distortion seconds before each attack. The readings are too small for normal detection, but they are consistent. Corvin turned sharply toward her. Gravitational distortions? Could they be folding space? It is possible, Rel said, her voice uncertain. If they have mastered localized space folding, they could move matter instantly. They might be taking our ship somewhere else entirely. The idea hung in the air like a heavy weight. If the ships were not destroyed but removed, where had they gone? And if the humans had that power, they could use it on the flagship itself. The tactical officer interrupted the thought. Admiral, the enemy pulse just appeared again. This time it is targeting the Iron Spear directly. The warning came too late. The light flared only meters away from the flagship's starboard side. The deck shook as if something massive had been torn away. Crew members steadied themselves as alarms rang. Damage report, Corvin demanded. The sensor officer's voice was pale with disbelief. We have lost the starboard shield generators. They are gone, Admiral. Not damaged, not offline, gone. The entire section is missing. Corvin kept his face controlled, but inside, the realization was forming. The humans could choose exactly what they wanted to remove, whether it was a ship or a specific part of one. That level of precision meant they were far ahead of Imperial technology. Commander Darren stepped closer. Admiral, we are being picked apart. At this rate, the fleet will be gone before we can land a single strike. We must reconsider our approach. Corvin looked out the viewport at Earth below. The planet remained calm and unbothered. There were no great defense platforms in sight, no visible fleets rising from the surface, yet their invisible power was. Breaking his forces in minutes, he turned to the fleet-wide communications panel. All ships, prepare to execute countermeasures. On my mark, deploy chaff drones and energy decoys. Flood the area with false signatures if they are locking on to us through space folding. We will make the field too chaotic for them to target. The order went out instantly. Dozens of small drones were launched into orbit. They scattered in different directions, each emitting random bursts of energy and radiation. The goal was to confuse whatever system the humans were using to find them. For several minutes, no more pulses appeared. The bridge crew began to hope the tactic had worked. Energy readings from the surface remained steady, with no sign of a large-scale human counterattack. Then, without warning, 3 pulses struck almost at the same time. One ship vanished completely. Another lost its engines. A third had its entire forward section removed, leaving it drifting helplessly in orbit. The crew on the Iron Spear watched in stunned silence as the damaged ship tumbled slowly toward the atmosphere. Without engines or control, it began to burn in the upper layers, breaking apart in streaks of orange fire. Rel spoke softly, her voice almost a whisper. Admiral, they are not fooled. They can see exactly where we are, no matter what we do. Corvin's expression was unreadable. Then they have sensors beyond our understanding. That means they are not a simple backwater world. Darren leaned in. Sir, we may have to open a channel and negotiate. If this continues, we will not have enough ships to even retreat. The suggestion was bold, almost unthinkable for a commander of the Imperial fleet. But Corvin could see the truth in it. The humans had not destroyed them instantly. They had given warnings. That meant they were willing to let the fleet go if it left now. Yet pride still held him back. Not yet. If we leave without a fight, the Council will call this a failure. We need more information. I want every sensor focused on finding the origin of those pulses. Even a single location will give us something to take back. The crew obeyed, though the mood on the bridge had shifted. The earlier confidence was gone. Now, every officer worked with a quiet urgency, as if each second might be their last before the next burst of white light appeared. Outside, Earth's oceans reflected the sunlight, calm and untouched by the war that hovered above them, somewhere beneath those waters or deep within the land. The source of the invisible power waited, unseen and untouchable. Corvin stood at the center of the bridge, watching both the planet and the empty black beyond it. He knew the next strike could target the Iron Spear itself. If that happened, he might not have the chance to give another order. And still, no human warship had been seen. The air on the Iron Spear's bridge felt heavier than before. The officers spoke in low voices, their eyes darting between screens in the large viewport. No one knew when the next white pulse would appear. Every minute of silence felt like a fragile gift that could be taken away at any second. Admiral Corvin stood in his usual place, hands behind his back, gaze fixed on the world below. Earth seemed peaceful. The swirling clouds, green lands, and deep blue oceans gave no sign of the threat it held. Yet the empty spaces in the fleet's formation told another story. 6 ships gone, several damaged, and no visible enemy to strike back against. Commander Darren walked over to him. Admiral, sensors have failed to locate the source of the weapon. The distortions appear only at the moment of attack. There is no build-up to track. Corvin's voice was calm, but edged with tension. Then it is not a weapon in the way we understand it. It is something else, something they can place anywhere they wish. Communications Officer Rel raised her head. Incoming transmission, Admiral. Same source as before, still untraceable. Corvin's eyes narrowed. On screen, the main display flickered, then cleared. A human woman appeared again. She had the same dark hair, the same calm expression. She wore no uniform, only a plain suit with no markings. Her eyes were steady, her voice measured. "You have ignored all warnings," she said. "Your ships have been reduced in number. Your weapons have been removed. This is the final statement you will receive before full removal begins. Leave this planet's orbit now." The image did not fade this time. Instead, the view shifted. The fleet's officers saw their own warships on the screen, as if from an outside perspective. Each ship was marked in bright outlines. Slowly, sections of the outlines turned red one by one, as if being chosen. "This is what will happen," the woman continued. "These areas will be gone in moments. You will not be able to recover them. If you value the lives of your crews, take them away from this sky." Then the screen went black. The bridge was silent for a long moment. Darren broke the stillness. "Admiral," she showed us our ships as if she was standing right beside them. "That means they have complete visual access to every part of our formation." Corvin's mind worked quickly. They wanted us to see. It was not just a threat. It was proof. Before anyone could respond, a pulse of white light bloomed in the distance. It touched the Iron Spear's sister ship, the Blade of Dawn. When the light faded, the ship still floated in place, but the entire command tower was gone. The vessel began to drift. Powerless, its systems dead without its control center, Corvin gave the order to assist, but before rescue craft could launch, two more pulses struck elsewhere. One ship was removed entirely. Another lost its entire weapons array. Rel's voice was tight. "Admiral, at this rate the fleet will be completely neutralized in less than half a standard hour." Corvin knew she was right. The humans could take any part of any ship at any time with perfect accuracy. The Empire had no defense against this, yet he was not ready to leave. "We will open a channel to them," he said. "If they can hear us, they will answer." The message was sent in the same wideband format the humans had used. It was short and formal. "This is Admiral Corvin of the Imperial Fleet. We request to speak directly. State your terms for ending this engagement." For a long moment, there was no answer. Then the screen lit up again. The same human woman appeared, this time standing in what looked like a large, brightly lit room. Transparent walls revealed a view of stars behind her, but the arrangement did not match the Iron Spear's position. She was somewhere else entirely. "You speak of terms," she said. "There is only one. You will leave the system. You will not return. You will not send spies or probes. You will carry this message to your rulers." Corvin's voice was firm. "And if we refuse?" The woman tilted her head slightly. "Then you will see what full removal looks like." Her image vanished. The very next second, 8 pulses of light appeared almost at once across the fleet. 3 ships vanished completely. 2 more lost their propulsion systems. One had its entire lower hull removed, exposing decks to the void. The last 2 were left intact, but were suddenly pulled several kilometers away from their positions. As if moved by invisible hands, the bridge crew stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Nothing in Imperial science could explain moving an entire warship so far, so instantly. Without touching it, Corvin's face was set in a mask of control. But inside he understood the truth. This was not just superior weaponry. This was technology, so advanced that the Empire had no way to counter it. Darren spoke quietly. "Admiral, this is beyond us. If we remain, we will be erased." Corvin looked again at the planet below. He thought of all the campaigns he had led, all the worlds that had fallen under the Empire's flag. Never before had a target world displayed such calm certainty in its own defense. He finally gave the order. "Signal the fleet. Prepare to withdraw to the far edge of the system. Maintain shields until we are clear." The remaining ships adjusted course, their engines glowing bright as they began to move away from Earth's orbit. The Iron Spear stayed in position for a moment longer. as if Corvin wanted to memorize the sight of the world. That had forced his retreat. Then another pulse appeared, closer than ever, a warning aimed directly at his ship. The message was clear. Leave now, or be removed. Corvin turned away from the viewport. Helm, take us out. The flagship accelerated, falling in line with the surviving vessels behind them. Earth remained quiet and untroubled. The clouds drifted slowly. The oceans sparkled in the sunlight. There was no sign of war, no visible weapons. And yet the most powerful fleet in the sector was retreating from it. In the silence of the bridge, Corvin spoke one final thought aloud, though no one answered. We will remember this planet, far below, somewhere hidden deep within the world. The human defense network tracked the departing ships. The woman who had spoken to Corvin watched as the fleet pulled away. Only when they were far enough did she turn to her team and say, "They will not return soon. But they will tell others. Let them. Now they know." The surviving Imperial ships moved away from Earth, their engines glowing faintly against the dark backdrop of space. The damage to the fleet was clear. Empty spaces in the formation showed where proud warships had once been. Some survivors carried deep scars where sections had been removed. Others limped along with reduced power, their systems still struggling to function. On the Iron Spear's bridge, the atmosphere was tense but quieter than before. No one spoke unless necessary. The crew was busy checking systems, recording data, and counting the losses. The strange pulses had stopped the moment the fleet turned away, as if the enemy wanted to ensure the retreat happened without further destruction. Admiral Corvin stood near the main display, watching Earth grow smaller. The planet looked harmless from this distance, yet his mind was filled with the images of his fleet being dismantled with surgical precision. He had led many battles, but never had he been forced to withdraw without even seeing the enemy's main force. Commander Darren approached slowly. "Admiral, preliminary reports are ready. We have identified patterns in the attacks." Corvin turned to him. "Go on." Darren tapped a control, and a projection appeared. It showed the moments before each strike, before every pulse. We detected gravitational shifts too small for normal detection. They were concentrated on the target area. Then the pulse appeared, and whatever it touched was gone instantly. We still do not know if the matter was destroyed or moved elsewhere. Corvin studied the projection. If they can move objects across space instantly, they could have sent our missing ships anywhere. They might be intact, or they might be scattered across the void. Either way, the result is the same. We lose them. Communications Officer Rel joined the discussion. "Admiral, I have also decoded part of the hidden signals that came before the pulses. They were encrypted far beyond our standards, but I believe they carried targeting instructions." Corvin's mind pieced the information together. "So they have a network, invisible to our sensors, giving exact positions of our ships. That is how they struck with such accuracy." Darren asked, the question that was on everyone's mind. "Admiral, how can a planet like this possess such a network? There were no signs of orbital defenses, no fleets, nothing visible at all." Corvin's gaze returned to the shrinking world. "Perhaps they have hidden their defenses underground, or deep in the oceans, or perhaps their true technology is not what they show to the galaxy." Rel spoke again. "There is more. When the human woman appeared on our display, I analyzed her surroundings. The stars behind her did not match any position in orbit. They matched the view from far beyond the moon's orbit. But there was no ship there on our sensors. This suggests they are able to hide entire stations from detection." Corvin felt a chill. Hiding a small object was difficult enough. Hiding a large orbital station from Imperial scans was supposed to be impossible. And yet the humans had done it so well that even during battle, nothing had been found. The truth was becoming clear. This was not a primitive world at all. It was a world that had chosen to appear primitive. The fleet moved into the shadow of a distant moon, using it as cover while repairs continued. The damaged ships were stabilized as best as possible. Medical teams worked to help injured crew members, though few lives had been lost compared to normal battles. The loss of entire ships weighed heavily on everyone in his private chamber. Corvin reviewed the visual logs from the battle. The white pulses were beautiful in a way, like gentle waves of light, yet each one meant the loss of Imperial strength. He paused the recording on the image of the human woman. Her calm expression never changed, even when giving threats. She spoke as one who knew the outcome before it began. A quiet knock came at the chamber door. Darren entered when allowed. "Admiral, I have received more data from the science team. They believe the humans' technology works by creating temporary folds in space. Instead of destroying the target, the fold moves it instantly to a location of their choice. That would explain the lack of debris." Corvin's eyes narrowed. "That would also mean they could move an entire fleet if they wanted. They chose not to, which means they were showing restraint." The thought sat heavily between them. If this was restraint, what would full use of their power look like? Darren lowered his voice. "Sir, if they can do this, the Empire cannot match them in a direct fight. Even if we sent 10 times our number, they could still remove us without effort." Corvin already knew it. "Yes, which is why we will deliver their message exactly as given. The High Council must understand this is not a world to approach lightly." Back on Earth, far below the quiet retreating fleet, the hidden defense network was standing down. Deep under the surface, in massive controlled chambers buried beneath mountains and oceans, humans monitored the departing warships. In one such chamber, the woman who had spoken to Corvin stood before a large transparent wall, filled with glowing points of light. Each light represented a defense station, some in orbit, some beneath the seas, some hidden far beyond the moon. The points dimmed one by one as the system powered down from full readiness. A tall man in a plain uniform approached her. "They are leaving." Their leader was proud. "He stayed as long as he could." She nodded. "He was testing us. Now he knows the truth, and he will carry that truth to others." The man looked at the display of Earth. "Do you think they will come again? Perhaps." She said calmly, "But not soon. And when they do, we will still be ready." The network they commanded had been built in secret over many decades, while the rest of the galaxy thought of Earth as a developing world. Humanity had been preparing for threats beyond its skies. The technology to fold space and move objects had been perfected long before it was revealed. It was never used in wars between nations, never shown in public, never placed in any ship that could be captured. It existed only to defend the planet from orbit. It had looked as if Earth was undefended. In truth, every part of the sky, land, and sea had been watched by systems invisible to even the most advanced alien scans. No warship could approach without being seen. No weapon could be fired without being met by a fold in space that would send it away. Corvin did not know all of this, but he knew enough to understand that Earth was unlike any world he had faced. As his fleet moved further into the darkness between planets, he recorded his final log entry for the mission. "This planet is dangerous not because of its weapons, but because of its silence. It hides its power so completely that we believed it weak. In truth, it may be the strongest world in this sector. Any empire that seeks to take it will lose more than ships. They will lose the illusion that power belongs only to them." The log ended. The fleet pressed on toward the edge of the system, leaving behind the blue world that had turned away. An empire. The iron spear limped through the outer reaches of the system. Its hull bore the marks of the invisible weapon, and its remaining crew moved with careful precision. Each step on the bridge reminded Admiral Corvin that the mission to conquer Earth had failed. It had failed not because of numbers, not because of courage, but because of a power beyond anything the Empire had faced. Corvin stood at the center of the bridge, staring at the distant stars. Even after leaving Earth behind, the image of the white pulses and disappearing ships lingered in his mind. For entire vessels gone, others crippled, their weapons removed as easily as if they had never existed. The humans had not even fired in the traditional sense, yet the Imperial fleet had been broken. Commander Darren approached. "Admiral, the fleet is holding formation. Most of the damage is stabilized and morale is recovering. However, the officers are uneasy. They have never seen an enemy like this." Corvin nodded. "No one has. Make sure all logs are stored and secured. I want the full report of every strike, every loss, every anomaly." The High Council must understand exactly what happened. The bridge crew worked quietly, their fingers moving across consoles to record the events. Each officer knew the importance of the logs. Not only would they be used to analyze failures, but they would also be the only proof of what Earth had done to the Empire. Rel spoke softly from her station. Admiral, I am still trying to make sense of the pulses. It is as if the humans have mastered space itself. There is no weapon signature, no debris, nothing we can use to replicate or defend against. They simply remove what they choose. Corvin closed his eyes for a brief moment. Yes, that is what makes them dangerous. They are not relying on fleet numbers, shields, or beam weapons. They are using something we do not understand. They are using intelligence, patience, and the mastery of their environment. That is why we lost so easily. The journey to the Imperial capital was long. The fleet's engines burned steadily as they passed planets and asteroid belts along the way. The remaining ships conducted repairs and analyzed their losses. Every officer had their own version of what had happened, but all agreed on the same point: Earth was different. When the fleet finally approached the capital, a massive city floating in orbit around a giant gas planet, the High Council waited. The council chamber was enormous, filled with glowing screens, floating holographic displays, and representatives from every sector of the Empire. Corvin's arrival was met with silence. The council had already received preliminary reports of the fleet's failure. In their curiosity was sharp, Corvin stepped forward, flanked by Darren and Rel. The council members looked at him with a mixture of expectation and judgment. The admiral took a deep breath and began his report. Honorable members of the High Council, he began, the mission to secure the planet known as Earth has failed. The Imperial fleet was not defeated by force in the traditional sense. No, weapons engaged us in the skies. No fleets opposed us. Yet we suffered losses unprecedented in any campaign in the Empire's history. For ships vanished completely, others were crippled. Weapons, engines, and entire sections of ships were removed without warning or debris. The fleet was forced to retreat. A murmur spread through the chamber. The council members exchanged worried glances. Corvin continued, the enemy, the humans, have mastered something we do not understand. They can strike at any point in space instantly. They have perfect knowledge of our positions. They do not need traditional weapons to control an engagement. Even our most advanced warships are vulnerable to them. We observed this firsthand. Attempts to flee or shield ourselves slowed the destruction, but did not prevent it. One council member, a tall woman with a metallic sash across her chest, spoke. Admiral Corvin, are you claiming that a single planet has technology far superior to our entire fleet? Corvin did not hesitate. Yes, my lady, more than technology. It is a combination of technology, intelligence, and strategy. They were calm, precise, and fully aware of the Empire's strength. They gave warnings before attacking, and they struck only when necessary. It was not rage, it was control. Another member, an older man with a deep voice, leaned forward. Explain why the fleet could not respond. Were our weapons insufficient? They were sufficient for any conventional enemy, Corvin replied, against these humans. They were irrelevant. Their strikes bypassed all shields and defenses. They removed parts of our ships as if they were invisible to the laws of space we understand. No energy, no matter, no force remained. Our sensors could not detect their positions before each strike. The humans showed us their power only when it was already in effect. A young counselor asked, are you saying they could destroy the entire Imperial fleet if they wished? Corvin nodded solemnly. Yes, and yet they did not. They restrained themselves. They wanted to make a point. They want us to know that aggression against Earth will fail. The council sat in silence. Some members whispered to one another. The idea that a single planet could challenge the Empire seemed impossible, yet the logs, the tactical projections, and the eyewitness accounts left no room for doubt. Corvin continued. They are not only advanced but patient. They can wait, observe, and choose when to act. They are not reckless. They will not strike unless necessary. This is not a world to be underestimated. Any future attempt to conquer it will be met with losses that the Empire cannot afford. A senior council member finally spoke. Admiral Corvin, your report confirms what we feared. This planet has shown us that the galaxy may hold forces beyond our understanding. We must treat Earth not as a world to dominate, but as a sovereign power to respect. Corvin inclined his head. Yes, honorable members. The humans are not like the civilizations we have conquered before. They are strong, intelligent, and capable of defending themselves with precision beyond our calculations. They have turned the Imperial fleet away without firing a single conventional shot. Another counselor asked, "Do you recommend diplomacy or continued avoidance?" Corvin's eyes were steady. Avoidance for now. Inform the galaxy that any aggressive move against Earth will fail. Let them understand the cost. And let the humans continue to observe us. As we observe them, one day, when they are ready, they may choose to reveal themselves fully. Until then, the Empire must respect their power. The council members nodded. The reality of the situation was clear. For the first time in history, an Imperial fleet had been forced to retreat by a single planet, not by brute force, but by intelligence, precision, and an unseen mastery of space itself. Corvin concluded. The Empire has been shown that strength is not always measured by numbers or weapons. Earth has reminded us that caution, knowledge, and foresight can surpass even the mightiest fleet. The council allowed a moment of silence to absorb the words. No one spoke further. The recorders captured every word. The Imperial fleet had learned its lesson. The galaxy would hear of Earth's impossible victory. As Corvin left the chamber with Darren and Rel, he felt the weight of the mission, but also a quiet respect for the humans who had defended their world. They had not only protected themselves, but had shown that intelligence, patience, and mastery of the environment could overcome the mightiest force in the galaxy. The story of Earth would now spread across the stars. The Imperial fleet would speak. Of it, other civilizations would hear. And humanity's reputation as a force of unmatched cunning and power would grow. Corvin knew one truth above all. The galaxy had changed, the Empire had been humbled, and Earth had risen as a new symbol of strength that no fleet could challenge without grave risk. The Imperial fleet had retreated to the far reaches of the system, leaving Earth behind. The surviving ships moved slowly, their damage repaired as best as possible. Admiral Corvin remained aboard the Iron Spear, his mind filled with the memory of the white pulses that had removed ships, weapons, and sections of hull with absolute precision. He knew that the High Council would now spread the report across the galaxy, telling every empire, federation, and independent civilization about the humans who had defended their planet back on Earth. The hidden defense network powered down, the massive stations deep under mountains and oceans, and the orbital platforms no longer projected energy. Humans returned to their daily routines, as if the arrival of the Imperial fleet had been just another problem solved. Yet the leaders of this unseen defense force knew that the galaxy had just learned the truth. The woman who had appeared to Admiral Corvin walked among the control panels in one of the subterranean stations. She observed the data, showing every strike, every pulse, and the perfect precision with which the humans had defended their world. The fleet is gone, she said calmly to her colleagues. The message is clear. They will not attack again soon, but the story will travel faster than any fleet. A young technician looked up. Will the galaxy respect our restraint, or will they see it as weakness? She smiled. Strength does not always need to be shown. They have already learned our capabilities. Every commander who witnessed our power knows that Earth cannot be conquered by force. That knowledge alone is enough to change the way the galaxy sees us. On the Imperial capital, Admiral Corvin's report was being discussed by strategists, generals, and diplomats. The High Council decided to issue a formal statement to every major civilization. Aggressive action against Earth was forbidden. The galaxy, for the first time, understood that a single world could hold back an empire through intelligence, patience, and precise control of advanced technology. Corvin received a private audience with the council. Admiral, the senior council member said, your mission failed. but it has taught the Empire a lesson it will never forget. Earth is not a world to underestimate. How we proceed with this knowledge is now the question. Corvin bowed slightly. I recommend continued observation and avoidance. Any confrontation would be disastrous. Their power is beyond comprehension. They did not destroy us fully because they chose restraint. We must respect that. The council members nodded. The galaxy had learned a new rule. Strength was not measured only by fleet size or weapons. Strategy, intelligence, and mastery over the environment could overcome the mightiest forces. Meanwhile, across other systems, word of Earth's defense spread rapidly. Merchant fleets, explorers, and diplomats carried stories of the humans who had stopped an Imperial fleet without firing a single conventional shot. Tales of white pulses that removed warships and the calm. Precise leaders of the defense network reached the ears of those who value caution. And intelligence, humans, still living their ordinary lives, became legends in whispers and reports. Their achievements were not built on conquest or aggression, but on mastery, patience, and unity. The galaxy began to adjust its approach. Realizing that some worlds could not be controlled through force alone, Corvin reflected on the events as he prepared for another briefing. He knew that every empire, no matter how powerful, would now consider Earth differently. The humans had demonstrated that they could defend themselves with perfection and restraint. That fact alone gave them a reputation that would last for generations. In a hidden control room under Earth's oceans, the woman who had communicated with Corvin reviewed the final data. She observed how the Imperial fleet had been forced to retreat, how their weapons and ships had been neutralized, and how the humans had maintained complete control without unnecessary destruction. They will speak of us, she said to her team, not as conquerors, not as warriors, but as a species that cannot be defeated easily. The galaxy will respect us, and they will fear the consequences of aggression. That is the greatest victory we can achieve without firing a single shot. Her team nodded. They had trained for decades, preparing for threats from beyond the stars. The defense network had been designed to remain invisible until needed. The humans had used it perfectly. They had not only defended their world, but they had also sent a message that intelligence, patience, and precise action could triumph over even the strongest invaders. Back on the Iron Spear, Corvin made his final report to the fleet. We have learned a valuable lesson. Do not underestimate worlds based on appearances. Do not assume that lack of visible technology equals weakness. Today, we faced a species that has mastered its environment and has used that mastery to protect itself. With perfection, we must respect that. His words echoed through the remaining ships. Every officer and crew member understood the importance of what had happened. Humanity had changed the rules of the galaxy. They had proven that cleverness, unity, and mastery of one's own world could surpass sheer force. As the fleet continued its slow journey back to the outer sectors, the stars of Earth's system faded behind them. Yet in every report, in every conversation, and in every record, the story of humanity's triumph was growing. No fleet could ignore it. No empire could challenge it without careful thought. Earth had secured a place among the galaxy's respected worlds. On the planet below, life continued as it always had. Cities bustled, oceans moved in rhythm, and people went about their daily tasks, unaware that their world had just changed the perception of the entire galaxy. Yet somewhere deep in the mountains, under the oceans, and high above in hidden stations, humans continued their watch. They had proven their strength, but they knew vigilance was eternal. The galaxy was vast, and knowledge was the greatest weapon of all. Corvin, back on his ship, recorded his final personal log. Earth has demonstrated that the smallest, seemingly weakest world can hold back an empire. Intelligence, preparation, and perfect control of one's environment are as powerful as any fleet. The humans have taught us humility. The galaxy has learned caution. And the name Earth will now be spoken with respect across every system. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the Iron Spear. Yet the memory of Earth shone brighter than any light. It was a lesson in strength, restraint, and the power of a united species. The humans had triumphed not through aggression, but through mastery. They had shown the galaxy that the mind, patience, and skill were forces that no weapon could surpass. From that day forward, humanity's legend grew. Explorers, diplomats, and empires whispered their story. They were no longer seen as a single world among many. They were a species that had defended itself with perfection. They were a species that could not be ignored. They were the humans, and the galaxy had learned to respect them. Earth remained peaceful, its skies clear, its oceans calm, and its people unaware of the full extent of their victory. Yet beyond their world, the galaxy would never forget. Humanity had risen, and their place among the stars was secure. The Imperial fleet had tried to conquer them. It had failed, and through that failure, the humans had won not only survival, but respect, legend, and a place in history that no one could challenge. Humanity had triumphed. Humanity had endured. Humanity had risen.